We are back with another episode of the Do As I Say, Not As I Did podcast. Again, the name explains the entire premise. We make a bunch of mistakes building our own businesses, so we're going to give you advice based on everything we did wrong the first time. Each week, I'm bringing on founders, investors, product experts, technology futurists, sales gurus, really just anyone who knows how to build a great business to help us work out how to build a great business. And then together, we answer questions submitted by you through email about what's going on in your business, what's going on in your lives, and how can we help you? How can we workshop what are the challenges you're facing right now? So if you have some challenges, if you're facing any fires right now, send an email through to us and we'll workshop it on the podcast. So send those through to podcast@joelditrapani.com. I know that is a hard email address, so that is included in the show notes. You don't have to remember it or try and figure out how to spell it. I'm your host, Joel Ditrapani. I'm the co-founder and co-CEO of Vigo, which is an edtech scale-up. We've grown it through Australia, grown it through the UK, and now I'm here in the promised land, the US, to grow it here as well. On top of that, I'm also a product advisor and a coach to startups and businesses trying to figure out how to build great product teams, which I know is hard, and how to build products that people actually want to use, which is also hard. I learned that the hard way, and so I'm here to try and help you guys do that as well. And today, we're joined by Stedman Blake Hood, who built Dispatch, which is genuinely one of my favorite personal products. I'll let Stedman tell you about it, but I've deleted Slack and I exclusively use Dispatch because it just understands me and how my brain works. But Stedman will do a better job of explaining what it actually is. Stedman has been building Dispatch for the past few years, but he's also previously built and sold a startup, which is most founders' dream. And he took a different startup through YC, which is most other startup people's dreams. So Stedman knows how to build cool products. He also sporadically posts advice, journal articles, and random content on his website, Crossblog, that I love and find a lot of value in. It's genuinely one of the most interesting blogs I've come across on the internet. So would recommend that. And then lastly, as a bonus to the listener, Stedman has a crazy wide online presence. So if you search hard enough, you can find a lot of funny, random stuff about Stedman out there. Everything from this good startup advice through to his old high school band, which you can listen to. So I would recommend. Stedman builds great products, and he's an exceptionally good leader and team builder. So let's jump into it. Stedman, welcome, mate. How are you going today?
Thanks a lot, Joel. It's so good to be here, and I really appreciate the very warm intro. I don't know if I deserve all that, but I'll take it.
Well, mate, can you tell us a little bit more about Dispatch?
Yeah, absolutely. Dispatch started, as you mentioned, I had a couple of companies previous to this, and we were just solving one of the biggest problems that I had at my last startup. So problem was like this. I was a manager. I was wearing a lot of hats. I'd be in back-to-back meetings, and I would come up for air and want to know what's the most important thing for me to see right now. There's no good way for me to answer that question. What I had to do is open up a bunch of different apps from like Slack, Jira, Notion, Google Docs, and basically just triage each one of those tools, of those notification streams. It was very bespoke, felt like there needed to be a better way, and that's what we're doing with Dispatch. Now, we are starting with one of the worst offenders for distraction and general chaos at work, and that is Slack. As you mentioned, you deleted your Slack app now that you're using Dispatch. What we do is we're a wrapper around it, similar to Superhuman. The one-liner is we are an inbox for Slack. And so, unlike Slack, where you click on a message and now it's marked red and it's lost in the ether, with Dispatch, just like in email inbox, the messages will stay in your inbox until you've explicitly taken action on them. You can assign them, mark them done, snooze them, all that stuff.
Yeah. And as I said, I really love using Dispatch. It's my absolute go-to for communication. It saves me so much time having it every single day because, you cannot inbox zero Slack, but you can inbox zero Dispatch, which I love. So at the end of my, Dispatch session, I have calm because Dispatch really understands the way I like to work, which is awesome. But look, I would recommend it,
Joel. Yeah, it's such a joy to be able to build tools for people like you, and to hear those words is just like absolutely makes my week. I appreciate that.
We might get Dispatch on as a future sponsor of the show. But look, genuinely, I do love it. We're going to drop links into the show notes, so you can just go and download it there as well. Would absolutely recommend giving it a go. This first challenge today is called, I think our startup will fail because of my partner. I guess I just need to vent. My business partner and I have been working on a SaaS type product for the last 2 years. We split everything 50-50 and I'm on the tech side while he's in the marketing growth side of things. When we met, I was doing most of the work and he seemed to have good ideas on how we could scale. It sounded like he was formulating a plan for the business. I could build the tech, he could sell it, win-win. Now that the app is launched, he just doesn't seem to want to really go headfirst into getting users. Every week there's something minor that's broken or missing, and he puts all of marketing on hold until that simple thing is done. This has gone on for several iterations. He'll go from saying we need funding to asking me to fix everything he sees and he doesn't like because we want to come across as professional, to saying he's going to reach out to various email lists, etc. I'm burnt out at this point. I've delivered everything from my side of the business and he hasn't really produced one concrete type of deliverable. It's a lot of conversations and suggestions and improvements on the app, plus whatever his potential ideas for marketing are. No numbers, no estimates, no campaigns. I'm starting to just think he has no idea what he's doing, to be honest. Is this business relationship salvageable? Or at the very least, is this guy even competent? This is a hard name, Ta Guayal Putain. So for short, we'll call them Ta. All right. That's a big one. And I know that's not an easy place to be. That's a stressful place to be. But what do you think, Stedman? What should Ta do? Is this relationship salvageable?
Good question. It doesn't sound promising. On the other hand, my questions for Ta would be, what have your conversations with your co-founder been like to date? It's quite possible that there is some explanation for this, or at the very least, other important context that Todd doesn't have. I certainly could empathize with feeling like, oh my God, there's so many different ways that we could get this to market, and I don't actually know how to stack rank them. I think it might benefit. I don't think this is going to come as a shock to you, Joel. I'm just going to suggest coaching. I think that coaching is incredibly helpful. I would suggest that Ta try to do some kind of lightweight coaching for his co-founder to basically provide them a bit of structure that it sounds like they don't have in terms of just thinking about rubber ducking, right? So if this guy's technical, he or she knows about rubber ducking, which is where you're just kind of talking to somebody and they're not really giving you any feedback. They're just helping you. They're just helping you think through the problem yourself. And I imagine that could be incredibly helpful for Ta's co-founder. Now, ideally, Ta shouldn't have to do this. The co-founder should be pulling their own weight, but that's not the situation that Ta finds themselves in right now. It's things are not working. Something needs to happen. As a founder, it's up to Ta to make that something happen. And it sounds like what's going one good first step there would be Ta being honest about how Ta is feeling with respect to their co-founder and just saying, hey, here's where I feel like I've contributed. Here's what I would have expected you to be contributing. Here's what I'm noticing kind of instead of that. And here's my concerns as a result. One thing I'll say here is the nonviolent communication formula is incredibly helpful for starting out difficult conversations like this. It's a 4-step formula. And it's so cookie cutter that it's impossible it's idiot proof. So if I were Ta, I would look up that formula. I can go, would it be helpful for me to go into that?
Yeah, go nuts.
Okay, cool. So the nonviolent communication formula is, let me give you an example of what it's not. So let's suppose that we're meeting for coffee, you and me, Joel, and you show up 5 minutes late. And because maybe I had a little too much caffeine. Me. Yeah, well, I don't know. But if I'm being extremely type A that day, I might say, God damn it, Joel. I feel like you're not respecting my time. You're not respecting my time. You're selfish. But that's not going to get the real effective message across, and it's certainly not going to help you understand where I'm coming from. A better thing is first to observe what happened. So I'd say, hey, Joel, I noticed that we made plans to meet at 12 o'clock, and you showed up at 12:05. How did that make me feel? This is number 2. What that made me do is it made me feel annoyed. It made me feel unappreciated. It made me feel like my time is not being valued. And so my request is that in the future you would you would respect my time and let me know well beforehand if you're going to be running late. I believe those are actually the steps. So the fourth one must be superfluous, but that is such a better way to start these conversations, because it's all about you and like what you noticed and what's going on with you. It's not making any assumptions about the other person's motives. And what that does is it allows the other person to hear what you're saying without getting defensive and closing off. So it's a really good jumping off point for difficult conversations.
Yeah. I think it's great to share that. Like, getting really good at communications is probably the number one skill a founder needs to have. Like, externally and internally, and like just being really good at sharing a message, whether it's about getting someone to work differently, inspiring someone, bringing someone on the journey. That's going to end up as your number one job, no matter what founder role you're in. But if I strip back to the question a little bit, is this relationship salvageable? Or is this guy competent? To be honest, statistically, your company's most likely doomed. Like, most businesses fail because of founder disagreements. And having a strong relationship is the number one thing. So if you're struggling, this is not a challenge that you can take lightly, and this needs all of your focus. There shouldn't be any product iterations or any marketing or anything until you actually get to the bottom of this. Like, this is the number one thing, because if it actually goes unmanaged, the company will just fall over. You know, businesses aren't easy, and you put a huge amount of work into it, and you need to get back on the same page. I guess, you know, from my own experience, at the beginning, I was not technical. I was, you know, two of us were not technical and one of our co-founders was technical. And it was like a weird place because, you know, at the beginning, the technical co-founder adds all of the value. Like, well, a lot of it anyway. Like, they're building the thing. We just have an idea, and like they're building this thing out of magic. It's so awesome. And there's so much pressure on you as that technical co-founder. And, you know, as I was the other one, and I was just being like, faster, more, better, more features, change this. And you know, we're excited and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, through the whole journey, everyone should be pulling their weight. Like, while the founders got much more, I guess while the technical guys got a lot more tangible outcome, the rest of the founding team should be pulling their weight. Like, the marketing guy, he's got one of the hardest jobs at the beginning. Work out who wants this. You can start advertising this well before it's finished, well before the 2-year point. Like, you put fake websites up, you can go talk to people. I remember, you know, before our product was out, me being more of the marketing guy or whatever, just the non-technical, we put up posters which were effectively telling people that we had the product already, but the product was just my phone number, and we're getting people to text me if they wanted access to it. And then I'm texting them back being like, hey, it's coming. Like, do tests, like, find out your market, work out the messaging. That really, to be honest, at the end of the day, your first iterations of your product are kind of superfluous. Like, they're definitely wrong. Like, they're a good start, but they need to improve. And that's the case for the entire history of the company forever. Like, you always need to work on that. So this person is not putting enough work in. Them just pointing flaws in your business, that's actually not okay. But that being said, this is your business, so you need to fix it. Because you can't just complain and say this guy's not salvageable. You've got two options here. One is to down tools and have these conversations and use these conversation or communication techniques that Stedman's talking about. But sit with them and get clear about who was responsible for what. Get really clear on who owns what responsibility. And you have targets. Set targets with them. You know, don't just expect them to come back. Work out together. Put your marketing hat on. Read a marketing book. Get a bit clear about what you want to happen in the company. What are your vision? What are your goals? And start setting very clear expectations of one another. Because that's where every relationship dies, is when you're expecting the wrong things. At the end of the day, you also could be completely wrong. Like, this person might be killing it doing stuff that you don't understand, but you need to understand that. You need a roadmap. How many users you want by when? What are the activities to get there? Are they ticking them off? Is this person at least doing the right inputs? So yeah, I guess like my advice would just be, solve this as your number one. Sit down, get really clear about your expectations. What are your goals? Who is doing what and by when? And that plan can change, but check in against that regularly. Because if you feel like if I felt like Stedman wasn't carrying his weight, that would destroy the business, because I'd be like, well, what's the point of me doing this? And I'm going to work less hard. And then Stedman's probably going to work less hard because he's seeing me work less hard, and it just spirals out of control. So have the hard conversation. The hard conversation will always make things better. It won't be comfortable though.
Amen.
Amen. We've actually never closed off our questions with amen, but I am looking for a closeout. I'm looking for an expression, so maybe we'll go with that as our one-liner.
Maybe I'll submit hoorah as another
hoorah. The one we tried out in the last podcast was you just got advised. Yeah, I guess anything else to add, Stedman, or we can close that one out?
Yeah, let's do one more thing came to mind, which is in this hard conversation, I would really make sure that you get across that you both are in it together and you are here to support them. You guys need to grow. And because you're equal co-founders, it's equally your job. Yes, you built this product, but you both, to Joel's point, you both own the failure if it fails. And so you both need to own the path to success. And so make it very clear that you are at your co-founder's disposal to whatever end is needed, but that it's going to require more probably focus on marketing and growth than it is on development, because at some point you can't just build your way into growth. And then the other tactical advice is there's a book called Traction. I forget who it's by, but it's an incredibly tactical user guide to exploring different go-to-market channels and rigorously testing them for your business. So check out Traction. Maybe we can put a link in the show notes.
I am obsessed with that book. I read that early on, and it was one of my top books. That is one of the most tactical and practical books out there about how to gain early traction and how to learn marketing. I had no experience with marketing until I read that book, and it changed everything for us. It changed the way we think about growing a business. So I would definitely recommend reading that. It's by Justin Mayers and Gabriel Weinberg. I wish I had an affiliate link because I'd throw it in, because that's a good book. Just go get it. It's so worth it. All right. Well, that's our final judgment is, have the hard conversation and make this a priority number one. Amen. You've just been advised. Amen. Hoorah. All right. Let's move on to challenge number 2. I have an idea for a startup, but can't build the product without external help. I've always been business savvy, and in my past jobs, I worked on the business side of things. Now I have an idea and have outlined a business model, business plan, etc. I just don't have the knowledge to engineer the product itself. Where do I go from here? By throwaway 999. That's early. That's real early days. That's a tough challenge to start. Honestly, you've done a good job just by putting this out into the world. Starting to talk about it is definitely the right place. The more you talk about this, the more you're going to attract things to you. But getting technical help, there's a lot of different ways you could go about this. Where would you start, Stedman? You've got an idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I would ask again. I would ask this person, what have they done so far to validate the market? Because let's suppose that there's a spectrum from I haven't talked to anybody and this would be a consumer app that needs to be in people's hands before I can validate it. It's a better Instagram or something, to this is a enterprise solution where I've already got signed LOIs for 7-figure deals contingent on hitting these deliverables. Try to get as validated as you can. And then everything else will fall into place. It'll be a lot easier to recruit the technical co-founder of your dreams when you've got 7-figure contracts lined up. It'll also be a lot easier to raise money from investors when you've got those same LOIs. And by the way, LOIs are letters of intent. It's one level before a contract. So typically for very early stage startups who want to validate the market with enterprise that they'll be selling to, they'll use LOIs to do that. So first thing is I would try to get as much validation as possible, ideally in the form of prepays or signups on a landing page. The landing page, to your point, Joel, it can be a fake website. That's what Zappos did. Tons of companies have done that. And so once you've gotten that level of validation, I think that's when I'd start to revisit. Once you've maxed out that validation, that's when I'd start to revisit who could I recruit to do this. Yeah,
that's a really good starting point. Is your idea even worth building? You can find out. And I guess, one book that I do love in this space is called The Right It by Alberto Savoia. I read this book again recently. It's a very tactical guide about how to validate ideas. And it's not about building an entire websites, and it gives you a really clear framework of what you should do to get some idea of like, is this actually a good idea? And from my own experience, we definitely, at the beginning, we had an idea and we built it. And we've continually had to pivot and iterate because of that, because, ideas are awesome and building's fun. But I guess I got this piece of advice really early in my journey. And it's honestly one of the best pieces of advice I got in the whole startup journey. I went to a startup event and I was talking to someone about my idea, and I was even a bit coy. Like, I didn't want to completely tell them my idea because I thought my idea was so special. And this lady, this is in Australia, so profanities are encouraged. And this lady was just like, she came real close and she was just like, "Oh, Joel, it sounds like you've got this really cool idea and you don't really want to tell anyone. You're a bit nervous someone might steal it." And I was like, "Yeah, like it's a pretty good one." And she was just like, "Oh, no one gives a fuck about your idea." And I was like, "What?" She's like, "Your idea is garbage. Like, it means nothing. Execution is all that matters. Go and build something, go and validate it and see if it means anything." And I was just like, oh, so offended. But it's so true. Like, at the beginning, ideas are effectively meaningless. Everyone has 1,000 ideas all the time. And that's great and be creative. And you're taking a good step. You're looking to take the right steps into this, but validate that idea. Validate validate that it's financially sound, that people want it, that you can market it, you can grow it. And honestly, the more you do that, the more you will have co-founders. The more that people will come to you, the more that this will draw out. But if I was to get really tactical about how to actually find external help, there are two clear paths. One is that you find someone to build it with you and find like a co-founder and go and equal, and that's one path. And the other one is that you have money and you pay someone to do it for you. I cannot talk poorly enough about that. That's the worst idea. That's just a huge waste of money. I've never met someone in my whole life that at the beginning had an idea, got someone to build it, and then became rich. The reality is that you need someone who believes in your idea and believes in your mission and makes it their mission, because you're going to need to go through 1,000 iterations before you get something that really makes sense, that people really love. Your first versions, it's going to suck. And that's okay, because you're going to learn and you're going to get so much better at it. You got to find someone. And to find someone, it is a hard task. You just need to go out and start meeting people all the time. Go to networking events, reach out to people on LinkedIn, go to your network. How we found our technical co-founder, Ben and I, the business guys, we got really excited and had this perfect idea that we were just going to get $1 million of funding for with nothing. It didn't happen, as you would expect, actually. But we just started going to everyone in our network and in their networks, and we found someone that we just really meshed with. And that was awesome. But we got lucky too, finding a co-founder is hard, and we just heard it in the previous question. Be careful about who you build with, and make sure there's a common trope that says a startup co-foundership is like a marriage, because the average, business relationship lasts longer than a marriage now. And it's true, make sure you love this person, you can work with them, and you can fight with them, because if you can fight and get over it, it's a good sign. So yeah, just start meeting as many people as you can and start pitching your idea every chance you get. And then the more you validate it, and then the more you include that in your pitch, I've not just got this idea, I have $1,000 of signups. I'd be like, what? I'm interested in hearing more about that. You might get investment there. You might get a founder come on. The more you validate, the more people will come to you, because it's cool. It's interesting. It's proof. It's a sure thing at that point. Is how people are going to start to feel.
Well put. And to add on to that, conversely, if you don't have a lot of validation and you recruit a technical co-founder, you've got to worry, well, if their judgment was such that they were willing to jump onto this ship with very little validation, what is that going to say about the technical decisions that they make throughout the life of this company? So you actually want to hold yourself to a high standard so that you can hold potential co-founders to a similarly high standard.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. All right, well, let's close that one out. It's, validate the idea and find someone who can build it with you, who believes in the mission and the vision and the traction that you've been able to prove. Throwaway, you've been advised. All right. Last challenge for the day. This one is need funding advice. I'm currently working on a startup for which I approached a few people for funding. Yesterday, I got a message from one of these guys who said he liked my idea and is willing to help me raise funds. I'm looking for pre-seed funding. This person is a consultant in a financial services firm who helps startup raise funds. He told me his company will charge a small fee up front and 4% of the total funds raised. He says that this is a standard market price. My problem is I'm having a hard time trusting his words because the way he said he liked my idea seems very sales oriented. Should I take this opportunity or not? I don't want to get scammed. This one is actually, weirdly enough, from another guy called Throwaway 03T5, which is crazy. So, throw away. Let's go. All right. Early funding advice, going through a consultant.
Yeah, such a red flag. Incredible. I don't even know. I have no idea anybody who's ever had success with this. Now, maybe it's happened and I just haven't heard of it, but it seems like a ton of adverse selection here, or moral hazard here, where the advisor is incentivized to get every chump that they can to pay them the upfront fee, and then spam a bunch of VCs to try to get them interested. Those are not the meetings that VCs take. VCs typically take warm intros from other founders that they trust. That's the best. That they've invested in. That's the best. Other founders generally, or other people in their first degree network, is number two. And then finally, a really well crafted cold email from you would be probably the third way that I'd try to get in touch with them.
Yeah, don't do it. Just no throwaway. That's bad. I actually hate people that do that. And I know that's a strong word, but one thing that really pisses me off about the startup world is that there are so many sharks out there just looking to make money that don't add value. And this person is looking to take a pretty meaningful chunk of your business, really, or of this money. And I guarantee he won't do it. I've actually never even seen someone at the pre-seed level have success with this. Now, using a consultant or a banker at bigger rounds, I get that, there are definitely times and places where these people do it, but pre-seed is not that. You're not talking about institutional money. You're talking about angel investors and friends and fools and family, and accelerators. Those kind of people are actually going to position you poorly because they don't understand your business. Because if they understood your business, they wouldn't be selling to you. They don't understand this dynamic of how to raise money at this level. So I just say your upfront fee is going to be a loss, and then there's a chance they scam you because they helped you create resources, and if you do end up raising money, it's not going to be because of them, but you might still get stuck with it. So I don't like it. I don't like people that prey on startups like this, and this person needs to focus. Throwaway, unfortunately, raising is very hard, and it can only be you that does that. But there's a lot of good resources out there. The book I would recommend is Fundraising by Ryan Breslow. This is one of my favorite all-time startup books. It's only 50 pages long. It's the most explicit steps on how to raise money, and it covers a lot of what Stedman says, which is it tells you exactly how to build a network. It tells you the emails to send, the kind of events to host, how to run a meeting, the scripts you should use. It teaches you how to write a pitch. It's just a fantastic book. And Ryan Breslow's raised a bunch of money and his businesses are worth over $1 billion. So, he's doing okay. But yeah, I just don't go down these paths. These people are sharks. They're trying to take your money and they don't add value. Raising money in pre-seed is going to come from angels. What I would recommend though is that there are great groups out here that can help with this. There are mentors, there are different co-working spaces you can be a part of it and get plugged into better networks. Also, speak to other founders. Founders are happy to help out. I say this all the time on the podcast. When I moved to Austin, I was reaching out to 100 or 200 different people a week on LinkedIn. And I met so many amazing people from that, and they're always so generous with their time. I had questions for Stedman. That's how I originally met him. I said, hey, I got these questions. And then he was more than happy to share his advice with me. So if you just ask, you will meet better people that are willing to help you from the right place, especially at your level. But sorry, that's a bit of a rant. These people really piss me off. Not throw away. You're in a tough spot. Someone's trying to take advantage of you, and just don't do it. You've sending this kind of question in is the right kind of thing to do.
Yeah. And a couple other ideas for jumpstarting your network. If it sounds like you're kind of on the outside of the investor founder bubble, and once you get inside, it's going to be a lot easier to get warm intros. So there are a bunch of pre-seed accelerators. I mean, Y Combinator is a good example of one. There's ARC by Sequoia. There's the South Park Commons in San Francisco. There's Hacker Fellowship or HF0. These are all tremendous opportunities to get mentorship and get your startup kind of from 0 to 1. Once you're in these communities, it's going to be much easier to get connected to the kinds of VCs who can lead future rounds, to get connected to people that you can hire and become part of your team. And in the process of applying to a lot of these places is a good exercise on its own, right? I don't know if you've looked at the Y Combinator application. It's a really good process that any company at your stage should be going through. So do it. Fill out the application. Maybe submit it if the timing lines up. But certainly consider that in your arsenal of options.
Accelerators are amazing. Accelerators are the reason that Vigo is alive. Like, we went through one and it helped us go from, I always say it took us from being kids to being adults. Like we actually learned how to run a business effectively. And from there, we were able to keep growing, and we did. We got plugged into the right networks. And I guess maybe just one last way of meeting people is go out genuinely wanting advice. So our first investor, he was an investor, but he was he was passionate about our space. We met him. We really liked him. We decided going to him for advice for 6 months or maybe even a year. And he was really helping us grow our business, and we took the advice, and he was a great mentor. After 12 months, he was like, you know what? I actually want to invest in you. It was never on the cards for us. We didn't think about it, but this opportunity came out of the blue, and then he opened up his network to us. So like, build that network, and it doesn't have to be just investors. It can be founders or other people that have done startups in the past, or people that have been in the investment world, and start to learn and learn as much as you can. All right, we'll close that one out. You've been advised. Amen. You've been hoorah. All right, well, look, that brings us to the last section of the show. Everyone's absolute favorite part of the show is plugs. So, Stedman, what do you got going on? What do you want to plug?
What would I like to plug? Let's see. What do people typically plug at this part of the section?
If their socials, their businesses. Sometimes, if they've read a book that they like. Just anything.
Awesome. Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't plug Dispatch, right? Dispatch is a priority inbox for Slack. If you're spending hours a day fielding messages and feeling like you're losing track of missed messages, Dispatch is going to save you on average an hour. That's what our users tell us. They love the product, using it all day long instead of Slack, like you, Joel. So give Dispatch a try. It's dispatch.do, or if you search for Dispatch inbox for Slack, you'll find it. And as far as a plug, let's see. I recently, I'm a big sci-fi geek, and I've recently been getting into amateur sci-fi that's submitted. It's published on Twitter. It's published on various blogs, and there's a really good author called Quantum, QNTM, and this person has just written some amazing sci-fi. And so I would check out Quantum's piece on. It's called "So It Looks Like You're Trying to Take Over the World," and it's a story, a very short novella on how the current generation of LLMs could plausibly take over the world. So it's that awful paperclip outcome that the Eliezer Yudkowskis of the world are worried about. It's that plot kind of played out in real time. It's riveting.
That is really cool. I read my first short story as an adult last year, and it was really fun. So I'll check that one out too. On my side, I also want to plug Dispatch. Sometimes I've actually literally been asked if I worked for Dispatch because of how feverishly I pitch them at events I go to. But no, I don't. I just love them. I just genuinely think it's awesome. I tell my whole team to try and use it too. Also, Do not forget to like and subscribe to the show. Go to your favorite platform, like and subscribe. I will say this every episode forever. Go to your parents' phones, go to your friends' phones, like and subscribe on all of theirs, and give it a 5-star rating too. Thank you to everyone that writes in. We love your problems. We love talking about them. It's really fun, and I hope you guys get a lot of advice and value out of this. And if you have questions, send them through. Send them through to podcast@joelditrapani.com. And lastly, if you just want to chat, I love meeting new people. If there's any way I can help you with your business, please let me know. Book some time with me. My booking link is going to be in the show notes as well. So you want to catch up and talk about what's going on in your world. Let's do it. So let's wrap this one up. Stedman, thank you so much, man. It was fun to argue. It was fun to laugh. I really enjoyed the conversation, and we'll have you on again. To everyone else, this has been another episode of the Do As I Say, Not As I Did podcast. We'll see you next week.